Chapter 1 The Lost Jungle of Time. James and Alice have always been close. They live in a capital city suburb, spending their days exploring the nearby woods, imagining that the trees are ancient forests and that the birds are really tiny dragons. But their adventures had always been confined to the world of make-believe, until one fateful day when everything changed. It started with an old map James found in his Pop-Pop's attic while visiting for the summer. It was yellowed with age, the ink faded and almost impossible to read. But there was something intriguing about it, a rough sketch of a jungle that didn't appear on any modern map. It was labeled simply as the Lost Jungle of Time. There were no clues as to what it meant, but something about it stirred an excitement in James that he couldn't shake. Alice was skeptical at first.
A jungle lost in time? That sounds like the plot of an old adventure movie,
she had said, raising an eyebrow. But James was persistent. After all, he had always been the dreamer, the one who believed in the impossible, and Alice could never resist a good mystery. The pair spent their weeks deciphering the map, studying the symbols and lines, trying to understand its secrets. They even traced it on a larger sheet of paper, marking every spot that seemed significant. Finally, after much deliberation, they determined that the jungle was hidden in a remote part of a nearby mountain range north of their home. Armed with backpacks full of chips and juice, they set out one bright Saturday morning, their hearts racing with excitement. It was a long trek, but they pressed on, following the map's cryptic directions. By evening, they reached the foot of a towering cliff, where the map seemed to guide them toward a narrow cave.
Is this it?
Alice asked, her voice trembling slightly with both anticipation and doubt.
Looks like it,
James replied, peering into the dark mouth of the cave. They both hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, the cool air brushing against their faces. As they ventured deeper into the cave, the sound of dripping water echoed off the walls. The further they walked, the more the cave seemed to come alive. The tunnel curved and twisted, as if it were guiding them to something important. And then, without warning, the ground beneath their feet suddenly gave way. They tumbled through the air, landing softly in a thick, vibrant jungle. For a moment, they lay there, disoriented and breathless, staring at the sky through the canopy of the leaves.
What just happened?
Alice gasped, her voice thick with confusion. James looked around, his eyes wide in disbelief. The jungle was unlike any forest they had ever seen. The trees were enormous, their trunks twisting like spirals, and the air was thick with the scent of wildflowers or something archaic. There was a sense of magic in the air, as if the land itself had been untouched by time.
Are we in another world?
Alice asked, standing up and brushing herself off. She could hear the distant calls of strange creatures, some of which she couldn't even begin to identify. James stood up too, scanning the area.
I think we are,
he murmured, his voice filled with awe. Suddenly, a loud roar split the air, and the ground seemed to shake. In the distance, a massive shadow loomed. Alice's heart skipped a beat. Through the trees, she saw it, an enormous, thundering figure lumbering towards them. It was a T-Rex, the scales glistening in the dappled sunlight, its teeth bared with a fearsome grin.
Run!
James yelled, grabbing Alice's hand as they both sprinted through the jungle, ducking under the low branches and leaping over rocks. The roar of the T-Rex echoed behind them, getting closer with every passing second. They turned sharply, pushing deeper into the dense undergrowth, until they came to a clearing. As they stumbled into the open, the ground suddenly rumbled again, and a huge mass of creatures appeared, a herd of triceratops, their horns gleaming in the sun as they plodded through the grass.
Do you think this place is stuck in the past?
Alice panted, her heart racing.
Or are we in some kind of time loop?
I don't know,
James said, panting too.
But this is amazing.
His eyes were wide with wonder, though the terror of the T-Rex's pursuit was still fresh in his mind. They stood in the clearing, their faces lit by the glow of the setting sun, the air alive with the sounds of the lost world. The Triceratops looked at them curiously before continuing on their way, unbothered by the presence of these strange new visitors. It wasn't until they turned to leave that they realized something was wrong. There was no sign of the T-Rex. Had it given up chase? A sudden movement to their left caught their attention. Through the trees, they saw a massive pteranodon gliding effortlessly through the sky, its wings spread wide. The sight of the flying dinosaur was both beautiful and terrifying. It seemed to have an almost magical quality, as if it belonged in another time entirely.
We need to find a way out of here.
Alice said urgently, snapping James back into reality.
We only brought chips and juice, no real supplies.
Right.
James agreed.
Let's follow the map again. Maybe it will lead us home.
As they retraced their steps, they encountered more and more creatures from the past. Herds of stegosaurus, flocks of dodo birds, and even a family of therizinosaur that watched them cautiously from the underbrush. It was a world teeming with life, both beautiful and dangerous. They finally found the cave entrance again, hidden among the trees. But just before they could step back through the portal, James turned to Alice.
We can't tell anyone about this. Not yet. It's too incredible. This world, these creatures, it's like something out of a dream.
Alice nodded, her face with a mix of awe and disbelief.
Yeah, but I won't forget this. Ever.
And with that, they stepped back through the cave. The jungle and its dinosaurs vanished behind them. The world they returned to was quiet, ordinary, but their hearts burned with the knowledge that they had glimpsed at a time long past, a time when the earth was ruled by creatures beyond imagination. James and Alice raced home, plotting their return to the jungle. Excited to return, they know they only scratched the surface of this hidden domain. Preparing properly this time, James and Alice can only dream of what adventures lie ahead in the lost jungle of time.